Good afternoon. Welcome to Non-Motor Problems in Parkinson's Disease, a web-based training presented by Health Tech DL, the National Parkinson Foundation, and the statewide AHEC Program Office. We're glad that you can join us today. We are presenting today from Augusta at the Program Office at Medical College of Georgia. For information on upcoming presentations, please go to www.healthtechdl.org. A few housekeeping items before we get started. If you're having trouble with the seminar software, check to see if Flash Player is enabled and if you have any pop-up blockers disabled. If you can connect to the seminar and the audio portion but get kicked off at any time, just reconnect using the instructions that were provided in your email invitation. This activity has been planned and implemented in accordance with the essential areas and policies of the Accreditation Council for Continuing Medical Education through the joint sponsorship of the Medical College of Georgia School of Medicine and the Georgia Statewide AHEC. The Medical College of Georgia School of Medicine is accredited by the ACCME to provide continuing medical education for physicians. The Medical College of Georgia School of Medicine designates this educational activity for a maximum of 1.0 AMA PRA Category 1 credits. Physicians should only claim credit commensurate with the extent of their participation in the activity. With that, I will now go ahead and introduce our featured speaker. John Morgan, MD, is Assistant Professor of Neurology at the Medical College of Georgia. He is board certified in neurology and chairs the Movement Disorders Program at MCG, which is a National Parkinson Foundation Center of Excellence. Dr. Morgan?
Thanks, Sarah. Glad you could join us today on this talk, and I hope you learned something about the non-motor aspects of Parkinson's disease. First, a little housekeeping, some disclosures and disclaimers about the entities that have supported me for various functions from research, grants, through speaking, consulting, or advisory boards. I will talk about some off-label uses for multiple drugs in the treatment of non-motor problems in Parkinson's disease. The real or apparent conflicts of interest have been resolved through a peer-reviewed content validation process. Well, I like to start out many talks with Parkinson's with a slide showing people, because that's who gets Parkinson's. People, patients, friends, relatives. A lot of people get Parkinson's. Perhaps 1 million folks have Parkinson's in the United States. And you may recognize a lot of the figures that are on this slide. Up here in the upper left is the Pope. Pope John Paul. He died a few years back, and he had Parkinson's for quite a long time. He had motor features that we all could see, a very hunched posture, hoarse voice. He even had some twisting posture of his neck as he progressed with the disease. But he also probably had significant non-motor features that are important in Parkinson's disease. One of those, in my estimation, is that he probably had some cognitive decline, given a very long disease duration and his age. I can't verify that based upon the Vatican or whatever, but I bet he did have some cognitive impairment, if not maybe some early dementia, given his age and the disease duration that he had Parkinson's. We do know from the famous resource Entertainment Tonight, which may not be so reliable in some cases, that Estelle Getty, one of the oldest looking golden girl who was actually the youngest, actually had Parkinson's disease. She's deceased as well. And she had dementia associated with Parkinson's as well. So dementia is a common non-motor problem in Parkinson's disease, which I'll spend a good bit of time on today in discussing. Muhammad Ali is pictured here underwater in the 1960s or so, and he has Parkinson's. Apparently is not the most compliant with his medications by report, and I don't know about his non-motor features. Hitler was thought to have Parkinson's disease as well. He's been seen on the History Channel by myself, actually walking up and down the lines when the Nazis didn't have enough money to edit the films very well, with a nice resting tremor on one hand. I don't know what non-motor features he had, but he certainly had some serious mental illness, I think. On the other pictures here, African Americans also get Parkinson's, as evidenced by Muhammad Ali, and the lead singer for Earth, Wind & Fire, the guy here in the yellow jacket. He has Parkinson's disease as well. Janet Reno's the prototypical gal that gets Parkinson's disease. This Dudley Do-Right, the stand-up citizen who's done the right things in her life. This is a funny picture I found on the web, picture beside Gene Simmons. He's the prototypical guy that does not get Parkinson's disease. Those that live the fast life, that jump out of airplanes, take risks. There's probably a Parkinson's personality out there that's a lot of Janet Reno and the Dudley Do-Rights of the world. Michael J. Fox is pictured here. His foundation has done wonderful things for Parkinson's, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's well over $100 million now of funding for Parkinson's research, and hopefully one day a cure. Well, what about the motor features of Parkinson's briefly? In a previous talk, which has been archived, I talked about a Parkinson's update 2009, and I talked about a lot of the motor features, but here they are in brief again. Bradykinesia, brady meaning slow, kinesia movement, is one of the cardinal features of Parkinson's disease that you have to make the diagnosis of Parkinsonism in a patient. So typically with bradykinesia, we test it on finger taps, and we measure the amplitude as well as the speed of the movement. And patients with Parkinson's typically have a small amplitude and pauses or arrests in the movement. Usually on one side, they're more bradykinetic than the other. So Parkinson's typically has an asymmetric presentation. The resting tremor and the slowness and the rigidity are more on one side than the other. The resting tremor, cogwheel rigidity, bradykinesia, and postural stability in more advanced patients are the major cardinal features of the disease. However, there's other motor features, including mass face, small handwriting, micrographia, the hypophonia or soft speech of Parkinson's. Hypomimia is the mass face, reduced arm swing, and also in patients that are treated with levodopa and some other medications, they can develop dyskinesias. Levodopa is the main culprit for causing dyskinesias in patients, but the patients that have Parkinson's for any period of time will need levodopa at some point, and it's the best, most powerful medication we have for Parkinson's motor symptoms. Wearing off occurs in patients when they typically were taking their levodopa on a 3 times a day schedule, and then the medication wears out on them. They actually have it last only 2 or 3 hours between doses for benefits in their tremor and slowness, etc., when it used to last 4 or 5 hours, maybe even longer. So I mentioned the other motor signs and symptoms previously, but here's an example of what micrographia, or the small handwriting of Parkinson's, looks like. It starts out frequently a decent size and then gets progressively smaller. That can be quite frustrating for patients, and it may respond to levodopa therapy somewhat with a bigger penmanship and better penmanship. Also, stoop posture is another motor feature, and sometimes you can have dystonia, these twisting postures of the hand, or more commonly the foot is twisted in or turned in, or the toe of the foot goes up like this, called a striatal toe. You can see those features in some patients as well. Well, how about the man, James Parkinson? James Parkinson in 1817 wrote a work called An Essay on the Shaking Palsy, and he's the man that Parkinson's was named after. No picture exists of Parkinson, but we know where he lived. There was a special, I think, on the History Channel or other outlets that you can see on his work. But he wrote this essay describing patients on the streets of London, as well as some patients in his practice. And he described the shaking palsy or paralysis agitans as this: involuntary tremulous motion would lessen muscular power. That's not actually true. Patients with Parkinson's disease, if you measure them grossly on regular tests in the office, have normal muscular power. They're not weak. Stroke patients get weak, but not Parkinson's patients. But they have the tremulous motion and parts not in action. So he knows it's a resting tremor, and even when supported, so when the arm's fully supported or at rest, they have this tremor. With propensity to bend the trunk forward, that's the hunched posture of Parkinsonism, and to pass from a walking to running pace. Sometimes patients can actually have that hunched posture and actually get almost running and hit the wall sometimes with their gait difficulties. And he also said the senses and intellects being uninjured.